and welcome to Center of Spookiness, the spooky podcast about spooky stuff, but mostly it's just TV episodes.
You were going to retire that voice, you said last episode.
I was, but I decided not to because it's spooky. I'm Josh, and with me as always is Spooky Skinner. Hi, Skinner, how are you?
I don't even know how to react to that anymore. And I've been hearing it for years.
Yeah. So obviously, this is Center of Weirdness, but we've changed things up. This time around, the spooky season is here, and we want to keep things spooky. We're talking about spooky TV shows. And last time we talked about a spooky nightmare creature, Freddy Krueger, and we're keeping things going, talking about a nightmare man with Tim Allen. We are talking about one of the Home Improvement Halloween episodes.
Fantastic. This is something we were thinking about doing, and then kind of going back and forth for such a long time of, do we want to talk about this or do we want to make fun of it? It was such a big show at the time, really big show, but also Tim Allen's a piece of shit.
Yes,
and
I think we should definitely get that out of the way. That Tim Allen sucks. He's not a good person, but I am conflicted because I don't want it to seem like we're celebrating him or thinking that he's he's fine or whatever. We're giving him a pass because we're not. But also, this was a huge show for me when I was growing up.
Yeah. So you were saying that this was one of your jams, important in a way that it fulfilled needs in you.
All right. Again, like you did with Salute Your Shorts, let's not say this is one of my favorite shows of all time, but it was.
I mean, you were. To be fair, we've now covered two things with Jonathan Taylor Thomas, and he hasn't worked in years.
Fair point, but this was on in syndication. It was on every day when I got home from school. This and The Simpsons just played back to back on our CBS affiliate, I think, in the afternoons.
So what was the better
home.
show?
What was that?
The Simpsons. What was the better show? The Simpsons or Home Improvement?
I mean, I think it's clear that it was Home Improvement, but I mean, it was one of those shows that was on all the time. And I think it is from the heyday of 90s sitcoms. We don't really have that same type of sitcom anymore. I think they are still there. I mean, obviously Big Bang Theory was a huge fucking show that was around.
Don't forget our good friend Young Sheldon.
Yeah, that's true. But that's not this. Is that the same kind of show, or is it filmed differently? I don't know. I know nothing about it.
I haven't watched a minute of it.
I know.
I mean, I sometimes see Big Bang Theory before something else comes on.
Yeah, I guess there are still sitcoms because you had the whole How I Met Your Mother show that lasted forever, and that was a sitcom. And
I'm as far as I know, they still exist on ABC and CBS, and they're gigantic hits. It's just things aren't culturally as saturated.
Sure, I guess that's true.
The Goldbergs, I believe, is a giant hit in this style, right?
Yeah,
I have no idea.
So,
I assumed it started Bill Goldberg, the wrestler,
but I don't think it has a. I don't think it has a laugh track.
Then how would they know what's funny? I mean, this show lets you know what's funny, even when it's confusing that the audience thinks it's funny.
Yeah, that's true. But it was one of those shows that was just around. It was in my space in my head, and I legitimately liked their Halloween episodes. This was that era too, where. And I think obviously some of those sitcom-y shows probably still do these. Again, I don't watch them as much, and I, have no real connection to them. So maybe that's why I kind of think that this era sort of stopped at a certain point, even if it didn't. But every show had a Halloween episode. That was kind of what it did. And you looked forward to those because they were a chance to break from the norm a little bit and do something a little different. And I for whatever reason, they just clicked.
Did the Norm show have a Halloween episode?
Yeah, and in those Halloween episodes, Norm wasn't in it.
Then it definitely broke from
they
the norm.
broke from the norm. Like, I don't know what it is, but it was just, they were like a big part of my childhood. And it was when I was kind of getting into into horror a little bit. So it like added something fun to know that like, oh, it's the Halloween season. So now we're going to get like a fun Halloween episode of Home Improvement, and they did quite a few of these. I think they did one almost every year that the show was on. I'm not sure about super early seasons, but the episode in question that we are discussing on this episode is A Night to Dismember from season 7. This was episode 5, original air date October 28th, 1997. This was before Columbine, so they didn't get to make those references because I know for sure if it had been after Columbine, they would have made some sort of reference to Mark potentially, shooting up his school or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's really weird. This is like the Halloween, like our last Halloween episode with Freddy's Nightmare. We have a goth character who it's not what actual goth kids did, but they're very concerned about him for vague reasons.
Well, I feel like Ronnie is closer to what like a goth kid might have actually been, but like Mark is just sort of, he's got his toes in both worlds. He's on both sides of the line. He's like sort of goth, but also still like comes from a wealthy family.
He wears a black polo and a black button-up dress shirt.
Yeah.
Which they're concerned about. I want to okay.
It looks like he's doing Angel from Buffy cosplay.
So, once again, I love when we do watch something popular from a different time frame. Like my time with this, like I watched the first 3 seasons, like most people. And like by this point in 97, I'm long gone. I have no memory for these ones, but like I watched all the first ones.
Yeah.
I watched some in syndication. So the most watched TV shows right now on TV, Sunday Night Football, worth billions and billions of dollars, right? Because nothing else can come close to it. The only thing that's come close to it is Yellowstone. I don't know who's fucking watching Yellowstone, but I know everyone's fucking watching Yellowstone.
Everyone's dad and granddad.
Okay, so if everyone's grad and like the highest you can get with the most dads and granddads watching, most aunts and uncles, is Yellowstone, which hits a peak of 11.31 million people. The lowest rated season in 1998 of this show, 17.7 million viewers averaging.
Wow. The
highest point in 1993, 35.2 million viewers every week.
Wow.
For this show.
And I think that's the thing that's changed, because I think
nothing can come close to like nothing.
Like you kind of think back,
all.
you think back to like this is not the numbers that like you hear that thing that if you follow any kind of TV stuff, there people will talk about like the MASH finale where there's like 60 million people or something watching it, and you're like, oh, TV just doesn't really do that unless it's like the Super Bowl or something now, like because we have so many choices, everything is so split and spread out, and like you can watch all kinds of shit on whatever streaming service that you have. And then also if you have cable or whatever, there's tons of stuff. But like, I don't think that those shows, even I think like Big Bang, even when it was like the most popular show on TV, I think it was only like 10 million or 12 million or something, right? Like it wasn't 35 million people.
No, and like you see the Netflix stuff that will go on, like 2 trillion people watch this. No, they didn't.
No, it like, autoplay, and that counts.
Yeah. Army of Darkness, like or whatever it's called, Army of Dead.
The Netflix movie
that has the Netflix movie that by Zack Snyder that has
0
zero cultural impact. I'm sorry, you stupid fucks. Like no one who isn't a weirdo on the internet who with like 7 keyboards remembers that movie even exists.
I forgot that it was. I never saw it. Forgot that it came out. All I remember hearing was it was fine, but too long, and then that was it. Like it disappeared pretty quickly once that happened.
Yeah, like that is it. Nothing touches this. Like. And it wasn't even, that's not like at 35.2, it's the number 2 show. It's not number 1. So like, and it's just a fucking sitcom.
Yeah.
And yet that is, if anything, like if a sitcom hit that today, fucking every executive in the network would instantly come in their pants. And then everyone would be like, what happened? Like, did the queen die on this show? What the like? It's so hard to have a monoculture these days, and yet, like, okay, so the highest rated season of Big Bang Theory, which is bizarrely season 9, was 20 million.
Oh, okay, so still very high. I mean,
very high,
but yeah, for a 22-minute sitcom about a guy with a very niche program in the Detroit area.
Not like generally not doing anything special in this show. Like it's a professional fucking sitcom. Like this is all like just old hands at this point. 35 million. Anyways, why is his local TV show so popular? Why did they tape it live? Like he comes home from work, like he works at an office, and his wife has watched the episode he was on that day. This is like his show. There's no need, like, to save money because it is a local production. Why wouldn't they just tape several weeks at once?
Yeah, I don't know.
And then he goes does his real job at a fucking garage.
Yeah, it's it's very strange to me that, like, I think maybe it's not live, but maybe it's kind of like the Tonight Show type thing where they like tape it earlier in the day and then it airs like a couple hours later. But that's still a quick turnaround. Even if they do it like that, that means they're filming the show at like 11 or 12 or 1 o'clock or something in the afternoon, and then it's airing at like 3 or 4. Because he's coming home and it's still light outside and he's cracking a beer. So I don't know if that means it's only 3 o'clock. If Tim Taylor rather is having a beer at 3:30 in the afternoon, or if he's waiting until after 5. Like, it's hard to say, but
it's so bizarre to me that somebody's local market TV show that isn't the news is their full-time fucking job.
Like that's, and I just thought about the fact that it would have to be relatively early in the day because it's Halloween week in Detroit, which means it would be getting dark at like 4 or 5 in the afternoon, and it's still bright as day outside when he gets home. So it's got to be like 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
This live studio audience for the Toolman show showed up fucking early to get seats.
You got to start lining up at 8:30 in the morning if you want to get into to see Tool Time.
He also has, later on in the episode, he has VHS cassettes of his different episodes. Oh yeah, and he acts like it's like one episode per tape.
Yeah,
like if he's filming one every day, like the show seems to portray like he is, wouldn't he have thousands of tapes?
Those are just the greatest hits that he keeps by the VCR in case he never needs to look back. But I don't.
You sit back, have a smoke, and go.
I don't know. I don't know if Tool Time is a daily show or if it's a weekly show. It would make sense that it's weekly because it would sort of mirror this, like it would mirror Home Improvement, which would be that every episode opens with a Tool Time. So if he only shoots it once a week, man, he's got a fucking great job.
Just great. I mean, he had to put together that pumpkin all week. Like they have entire staff on retainer.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's an insanely popular show. The show is presented by Binford, which is this tool company, and I don't know I can't remember from my years watching this show, like if Binford is a huge chain or if they're like kind of a regional chain, or if it's like his show is broadcast all over the country, or if it's just a regional show. Like, I can't remember how big he is, because like they're clearly wealthy, but they're not like insanely rich. Like, they still seem kind of sort of down to earth.
Obtainably rich.
Yes, it feels like it feels like the very sort of a platonic 90s ideal, you know, like they have this nice house, but it's not insanely nice, but like they have money, but like it's not, but both of them work. So it's kind of like that weird thing of like, oh yeah, this could be a normal family.
It's just, hey, as somebody who worked in the tool industry.
Oh, that's right. You and Tim have a lot in common.
I really wish we had, marketed by just sponsoring a local one city in America once a week TV show.
You and I are a lot like Tim and Al. I'm your bearded friend.
I also
carry the show. Like you're the reason that people tune in to our podcast.
Watch me set things on fire. God, it really. This one, coming back to it, I can see, like, this is a show where really, at least this episode or whatever, like, I don't remember from other episodes, but I feel like this, like, it's not really pushing any viewpoint other than family is important.
Yes.
And your dad should care. And in this episode, Tim is the cool dad, and he is actually more right.
It's weird to say that, because like what we know about Tim Allen as a person, and him being a real snitch.
But he's a real piece of shit rich guy, which is just kind of generically you can be, right?
Yeah.
But he's emboldened by the fact that there's this generation of people who are like, well, he stood for family values with his 2 sitcoms. And I'm like, he's just a fucking actor. And the show has had no Republican slant, like this one at least slanted. They make fun of Republicans in this one. They called them fucking evil. It's like, he doesn't stand for that. He's just an actor. He's misogynist. Like, if you go back to his stand-up and the books he wrote, fucking huge misogynist.
Well, and it's weird.
Wife bad guy.
Yeah, it's weird that he, like, as kind of like gross as, and I've only seen like a very small bit of his stand up because it, just wasn't in, like, he wasn't doing it once he started getting into this shit. But like,
well, here's the thing, like, this man must be richer than fucking God. And yet there's one fucking movie he doesn't do the voice for, and we have to all fucking hear about it? For fuck's sake, get your head out of the cocaine stack and go fucking do something, you fucking piece of shit.
But what I was going to say is that, like, he has this kind of very, distinct, limited viewpoint in his comedy. And then he gets locked into 3 Disney programs, because this was on ABC, and then he's in the Santa Claus movies, and then he's in the Toy Story movies. So he's like in 3 Disney franchises over the course of like a 20-year span. And it's pretty wild to me that like you could just do that. And I guess you still kind of can. I guess there are plenty of people with questionable comments who still get, put into very specific Disney things now.
Yeah, it's always funny when someone goes so far that they actually get kicked out, and they're like, oh, cancel culture is like, so many of you aren't, like, A, doesn't exist, it's just consequences. 2, no one really gets canceled. And 3, the ones who do lose their careers, it doesn't help if you're a woman, because they're quick to do that anyways, but you have to really triple down on shit to lose your spot.
Yeah.
If you've made it.
But even,
like, all you have to do is shut the fuck up.
Yeah, but even him complaining about like Last Man Standing getting canceled, like that show ran for like 9 seasons. So like, and then it got canceled, and he's like, oh, people didn't like the attitude of the show, this sort of Republican attitude. And it's like, okay, that show got canceled because maybe the ratings weren't very good, or it just wasn't returned. It's all a business decision anyway. It's probably not because of anything that you said politically. But then also, there's a Santa Claus show coming out that you were a part of, so you're not canceled. You just get to go to another thing.
And I believe, like, he hasn't had the Buzz Lightyear role taken from him. It was just for that one movie.
No, because it didn't make sense because the convoluted story that they gave as to why that movie even exists.
And like in a long way, like he's like, oh, it failed because I wasn't in it. No, it failed because it was a hard concept to pitch.
Yeah, and
like
they did a bad job of it.
And they did a bad job on it. That was entirely like that would have been a fine. And I never watched it, and I probably never will. And my daughter's aged out of that. But it sounds like a fine, small side project to put out. It's a hard pitch for something big. If nothing else, if anything else, he had his name saved from being attached to it.
Yeah, because if he had been in it and it failed, would people have been writing op-eds? Tim Allen shouldn't have been in this. They should have cast another person.
If he had been in it and it had failed, he would have blamed left media for not pushing it harder. Like he literally is like he's in that spot where he is so ungodly rich and still getting roles, and he's fucking, if he always do is tweet something stupid about Biden, who nobody likes anyways, and he has to, and like he'll get attention because he's so fucking super famous that like the idea that he is denied anything is comical, but funnier than he is himself in most ways. But back to the show, the character of Tim, the Tool Man, is actually cooler than the man himself in this episode, which is bizarre, where they have Patricia playing the character who you would think the man himself, Tim Allen, would play in this role.
All right, so let's talk about we've spent 20 minutes or so shitting on Tim Allen. I think our thoughts are known on this guy. So let's talk about the actual.
Now let's start shitting on Richard Karn.
He seems fine. Maybe. I mean, he was trying to get into NFTs, and then people were like, "Don't do it," and then he was like, "I decided not to do it." And so I was like, "All right, cool. I respect you." But so let's talk about this episode specifically. I wanted to do this one, and we picked this one before we did our episode on, or before we decided to do the episode of Freddy's Nightmares, and it just so happens that there's a nice goth kid connection between those two. Also, the scene wipes where you get Freddy bursting into a scene. They should have had that here in
I really miss wipes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that might be the biggest cultural touchstone that this show has cemented into people's brains who watched it regularly, is that anytime a movie or a TV show does something like a weird wipe, it immediately registers in your brain. That's a Home Improvement wipe.
Well, here's the thing. This episode had the late version of the title cards where the kids are growing. It has a little bit more music. It's a little less whimsy, a little bit more guitar, it sounds like.
Yes.
But like that song is stuck into a generation's brain, A, because 35 million of us watch it every fucking week. But two, it play the bump 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 played throughout the fucking episode during the wipes.
Yeah.
So it like not only is it slamming your head from the start of the show with the theme song, it's also reinforced throughout the episode. Yeah. You can't escape it.
And also, who doesn't, despite what your feelings are about Tim Allen, who doesn't like going, because it's fun.
It is so fucking marketable.
Yes.
It's like the doot 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 in that fucking song, or any little loop.
Yeah.
Where you just like, the first time you hear it, like, oh god damn it, that's going to be everywhere. The first time you heard him go oh on the show, like, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna be a bazillionaire.
Yeah, it's just that weird thing. But so A Night to Dismember. I wanted to do this one because this was when Mark, their youngest son, is in his goth phase, like we already talked about.
Very funny.
So I figured there would be something fun to talk about there. They always did fun Halloween episodes. There's a couple others that are like a little more like Halloween focused, but I'm glad that we did this one because there's a lot to discuss in it. So as these shows always do, it opens with us seeing an episode of Tool Time, insanely popular show. And they've decided
far more popular than we are.
Yeah,
which is sad.
for sure. They have decided to have a pumpkin race. I'm not sure why a tool or home improvement show would do this, but hey, whatever.
If I was a kid watching before school started because they tape
because it airs at 8:30 in the morning
or after school, I would be so much more into this than fucking building a shelf.
That's true. Very, very good point. Yeah, I mean,
I kind of wanted to do this. So if any of our listeners want to make a raceable pumpkin and film it and send it to us on the social medias, I will repost it as long as your dick is not in the video.
Yeah, that's probably a good caveat to add there. But they have this little this track set up, and they have decided to race these pumpkins based on some very specific criteria, according to Al. But Tim, as is his wont, he has given this pumpkin more power. And
did he actually say more power? Did I blank it out?
I don't know if he says it specifically in this one, but he must have, because why would he not?
I mean, it was inferred that there was more power inside this pumpkin.
Absolutely. So he has put a chainsaw motor inside this pumpkin to increase its speed. Al, of course, has done things by the rule book and made a very simple pumpkin with simple wheels and done everything by the books. Which is why he obviously is the safer one and knows what he's doing. And they set out to race their pumpkins, but of course, Tim's with its chainsaw motor slides through the barrier on the track and explodes. As is what normally happens on these things. Someone gets hurt, something blows up, and it's insane that he still has a show, because later on they talk about these like tapes that he has around the VCR that he sometimes watches, and Jill just references all the bad things that happened, like he blew up a house, he glued a board to his head, he flooded a basement with sewage. Like, he just is not a good he's not good at his job.
But at the same time, he would do fantastic on TikTok.
Yes, like a show like this where you like watch this guy do this thing and he keeps hurting himself. Like, that's why I like the Bill Dance outtakes where that guy trying to fish keeps falling into the water.
What is, like, because we only ever see of the show the cold open amount.
Yeah.
Which is the perfect amount for an online video.
Yeah.
Like, the whole half hour or whatever the show is, it's probably boring when he's doing actual tool stuff, when he's playing with his tools.
Oh, man.
I don't want to see that.
Here's a great idea for a TikTok account. Someone who just puts up the openings from Home Improvement episodes as if they're a real show.
Let's just find a precocious 7-year-old. Can you find one for me that can just react to them in 2022 and go, huh? What's he making that sound for? This guy's not very good at his job. And we'll just overlap that next to that on the TikTok, because we were thinking of adding a TikTok to the show. And by we, I mean you. I'm far too old for that. I think that would just do boffo-bio.
Yeah, it would do huge numbers. So it doesn't work, of course, and it blows up, and we get to the intro, and then Tim comes home, and Jill mentions that she saw the show that day. They're talking about what they're going to do for Halloween. She's worried that Mark doesn't really have any plans, and so she talks to the brothers who aren't in the episode that much, Brad and Randy. Brad is going to a party that's being thrown by the soccer team, and Randy and his girlfriend are going to a party dressed as the scariest thing that they can think of, Republicans.
So he's dressing up as Michael J. Fox from Family Ties.
Yeah, I think that's kind of his role as sort of the inverse of that. Like, he is more a liberal and outspoken.
The tiny little guy?
Yes. But he's more liberal and outspoken than like the rest of his family. And I think that's kind of the archetype that they're going for.
So, okay. Brother dynamics here. I am the little brother. You are
the older brother.
So, If your mom asked you to bring your little brother to a party at that age, how would you feel?
I mean, it depends on. I probably would say no.
So, as the little brother, I'm 5 years younger than my brother. If my mom did this, and she wouldn't, because that age gap is gigantic at that time. But if she did, and I heard her ask Scott, "Hey, bring Brian to X social engagement because he doesn't have a life," I would be angry at everyone.
Yeah. Well, yes. Okay.
There's no place I would rather less be than, especially at post teenage years, than being, "Hey, can you pity bring him?"
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. If that was the caveat, like that, oh, hey, take him because I don't want him to be alone, and also to be like real bummed out because people don't seem to like him or he doesn't have any friends or something, then yeah.
Here's where I feel for Mark, because they consider Mark to
You're
be
both goths,
antisocial.
that's why.
He's goth, and he's antisocial because he's quieter and he's a goth. But he clearly has at least one friend, Ron.
Sure.
Who they hate. But like in my family dynamic, my brother was very popular and had lots of friends. But like high on the social chain friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had plenty of friends. I was off most days out doing things with friends. But my parents considered me unsocial because I didn't have popular friends. And if you asked them, I was shy and didn't do much. But like reality was, I was out with my friends almost every single day, except for we were playing Nintendo rather than playing sports.
Yeah, I think that is the sort of indication there, is that like
that's the generation gap that I spanned, that my brother was more on my parents' side than I was on the other side.
Yeah.
That I consider, I would call that generation spot 1988 through 1991.
Well, I think this too kind of still, even though this was 97, I think is what I said, like this still has that kind of that vibe of, if you're not a popular kid, if you're not, around a bunch of kids doing things outside or doing some sort of sport, or if you don't have a girlfriend or whatever, then there's something wrong with you, or you are doomed to be alone forever kind of vibe. Like if you're even the slightest bit different, or you have this slight different way of interacting with the world, then that means that there's something wrong with you and we need to fix it.
Which is funny because like through high school and through almost the entire college, I had a girlfriend, but my brother went through many girlfriends, and my parents were far more interested in his love life and barely talked to my girlfriend because we weren't doing anything interesting to them. Like to them, like my brother was building a life and they had to be careful. I was just happened to have a girlfriend, and she didn't have anything in common with them, so they basically barely noticed her existence for 4.5 years.
So you were Mark, and your girlfriend was Ronnie.
Basically, my girlfriend was Ronnie.
Except that they probably weren't actively hostile to her.
If you asked my dad what her name was after 4 years, he may not have known.
So they all have their own plans, and nothing's, they're not going to be able to take Mark anywhere. But Mark shows up with his friend Ronnie, and Tim and Jill are just hassling this kid hardcore from the moment he walks in the house.
To his face.
It's insane.
If oh God, I can't, like, I tease my daughter's friends, but in a way that like is more self-depreciating of myself a little bit.
Well, it's a little, I think it's probably like you traffic more in maybe absurdities, like, and they're like, oh, he's so goofy. Like,
well, yeah, like you may have noticed in the show and off other podcasts, I'm generally doing things that all I care about is it funny to me.
Sure.
And that may not always play well with teenagers. But I think they get the idea that like the idea is, hey, feel welcome here. We're all comfortable around you, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to we think there's something wrong with our son because he's friends with you.
Yeah, they like make a comment about them, just coming from Glee Club, and when they say that they want to borrow the video camera so they can make a horror movie, or a movie, they're like, oh, what kind of movie? A fun romp with sunny disposition, and they're just like. Like, and then he's like, no, a horror film, and they're like, oh, well, that makes sense. And he's just like, Jesus.
I really want to stress very carefully that like they do outright say that it was alarming to them when their son all of a sudden started wearing nothing but black, and just how to deal with it. He's wearing black dress clothes.
Yeah, he does not
like Ronnie is at least looks like a kid who wants attention.
Ronnie is sort of the prototypical goth. Like, he looks the most goth of the goth kids that we've seen over the last couple of weeks on this show. Like, he's got the choker, the studded choker. He's got the extremely dark, spiky hair. He's very pale. He's got a very sullen expression.
And that's right. He got, unlike the Freddy Nightmare Goth and Mark, it has the right look of what 90s and probably the early 2000s didn't understand about goths, where they weren't scary, terrifying people. They weren't kids who were into death and satanic. They were just a different kind of sullen nerd.
Yes.
Like, most of them are geeks and nerds who just picked a style and a sort of music, and it just happened to be that. Like, they're not dangerous or evil, they're just, or into death. It's just the color they chose and the music they chose, and in general they're still video game playing nerds.
Yeah, they're just little nerds who don't relate to the sunny dispositions of everyone around them.
They don't like sport. They don't like the sport ball.
Yeah, they would much rather just do their own thing and not be, and I think it's, and again, I'm not a goth person. We're not trying to impugn people who might identify as goth, if that's even a thing anymore.
You can fucking dress or like or do whatever you want. Yeah, of
course.
Man. As long as you're fucking happy and you're not hurting somebody else.
Yes.
I mean, what the fuck do I care? What the fuck should anyone care?
Exactly. I think it's just funny that this is kind of the sort of standard of what we were dealing with in the 90s, of like how people thought about that. Like, oh, he's wearing all black? Something must be wrong. It must be.
But it's the mom. It's the mom in this one. It's not Tim. Tim actively, we shouldn't go, I don't want to go beat by beat on this. No. They're making this movie.
Yes.
And like it's all the cast. Like he like you said, he told me he must not have any other friends besides Ronnie, because only people he has to ask for the show to do this with him are his parents' friends. Yeah. Which is funny.
His parents' friends and coworkers.
I mean, he does. The funniest thing in the whole show is he gets the Tool Time girl, not Pamela Anderson. We're past that.
Yeah, she was on like season 1, I think.
Yeah, but the current one of those.
Yeah, Heidi
to be his girlfriend in the show, wearing a small black cocktail dress. And it's very funny that he pulled this off, because, like, if nothing else, save that chunk of the video for yourself to watch at night.
Yeah, buddy. You'll grow up just fine.
Just fine. Like, hey, like,
it's all like a ploy. He's like, all right, I'm gonna pretend to be goth for like 3 months, and then I'm gonna say I'm gonna shoot this movie just so I can get Heidi in a dress pouring me some root beer, so that I can clip that little video out and then finally hit puberty.
You know what? The strongest reaction I had during this entire episode was like, man, I want some fucking root beer. When he asked for some root beer, I'm like, that sounds great. I haven't had I can't drink soda with very often, and man, a root beer sounds great. This kid has the best life in that moment.
So yeah, he asked them to be in the movie. He wants to put it all in there, and so they start shooting it, and of course he's doing these very sort of exaggerated kind of 50s style performances. They're all dressed very much like that. It's very over the top kind of stereotypes which is pretty funny. They do have as he's filming it, they have a little clapper that they've gotten that they're using to sync the audio that's on the camera. So I don't think you really need that, but he's got the clapper, and it has a little section on it for cinematographer and director, and both of them say Mark, but the way that it's written, I thought it said Dark Mark on it,
and that's what I want him called for the rest of the show.
Dark Mark
walks in. Dark Mark.
Yeah, move over, Dark Brandon. Dark Mark is here.
Dark Mark. But that is so great. I love it so much. They're
doing their 50 stereotypes. You know, Tim is the weird 50s dad. Jill's the weird 50s mom. Brad and Randy are playing Chad and Andy. Chad's a football player, and Andy.
How did they figured out the Chad meme?
They sure did. And Chad's a football player, and Andy has been accepted to Harvard and all other colleges, apparently.
In the Western Hemisphere. Yeah. I mean, he's just gonna sneak in there like this little tiny guy.
And so they shoot it, but then they're not sure because they're like, oh, it's supposed to be a horror movie, and then they're like, oh, well, maybe we get eaten by zombies or something, but Jill is concerned that the movie, if it's not good, then it'll send Mark even further into a spiraling depression.
That's weird because she's really stretching.
Yes,
like. You're making a lot of assumptions. Yeah. Like, oh, he's going to be even worse. He doesn't even see in this episode. At no point does he seem sad. And then she's like, he'll be. This will destroy him. Will it though?
No, it's like he is just he's trying to do something fun, and Tim seems to be understanding of that. Like, hey, he's got an interest in something. Like we were concerned that he wasn't invested in anything, that we didn't really know what he wanted to do. Like his personality had changed, and we weren't sure what made Mark now. And now he's interested in making a movie. So this is great. Like, let's let him do it, and let's let it play out. But they go through, they film a couple more scenes. They have some scenes where they have these like pantyhose on their face and they look really strange. And it's, funny. They talk to Wilson, of course. We get a Wilson scene where he's hiding his face behind a bunch of different things.
What does Wilson look like? Better buy this magazine to find out, because we don't have the internet yet.
I mean, I think one of the first things that I did when I had access to the internet is I did go and look up Earl Hindman and try to figure out what that guy looked like. And he looked like about what you'd expect.
You didn't write Earl Hindman and then it auto-completed nude.
I thought as a kid that it was very funny that his name was Earl Hindman, which is very close to Earl Hindman, because they were always hiding his face.
I think it was funny because his face is shown, not his hind.
Earl Hinderman was the porn star version of Earl Hindman.
Oh, no.
And he was in the show Tool Time.
I mean, that had to happen, but we don't have to review that.
Yeah, and that Tool Time was a show within a show on bone improvement. or bone improvement.
No. Why are you not capping at bone improvement?
Hole improvement.
You ruined it. You had your moment. You had your peak.
Both of those could have existed. And both of them probably did. We need more snappy porn parody titles. We don't need This Ain't Home Improvement XXX. That's not clever.
Yeah, it's like Big Bang Theory or Big Bang.
Yeah, Big Banging Theory.
Very large banging.
Wow, I didn't realize that Earl Hindman was in The Taking of Pelham 123. Great movie. Go watch that if you want to see his face.
And Richard Karn is in Most Vertical Primate.
But so we get a scene with him. He tells them that Mark's a good director, that he's pretty good. He'll probably make a good movie. He doesn't know what it's about, though, which I imagine is what most of the actors in David Lynch movies say. Great director, probably going to be good. I have no idea what it's about. But they are going to watch some old clips of Tool Time, Tim and Jill, because Tim wants to look back on something that he thinks might help him with the rematch pumpkin race that he's going to have. And
I'm not sure how that would have worked out.
I don't need, it doesn't matter.
It never comes to fruition.
No. So they find a tape that they realize is Mark's edited footage from what he's been shooting. And while they said that they promised not to watch it until it was ready, they break that promise immediately and decide to put it on, which really sucks.
To be fair, why did he put the tape in the living room?
Very true.
Next to all just
this is on
keep
Mark.
It in your room. This is 100% on Mark. He doesn't seem that upset about it later because I think he knows he fucked up.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's not smart, basically. Like
he's not smart, Mark. He's dark.
That's right. Dark and dumb Mark. So they watch it and they see kind of what you would expect. They see the shot the scenes that we saw shot earlier, where they're the exaggerated 50s family, and then we see Mark, who is going by the name Clark in
Dark Clark.
And he's saying that, like, you know, this family, a normal family, but they don't really respect their other son. They think he's weird, and he wants to make them as weird as they think he is. So he goes to Wilsonstein and gets a potion that will change their physical natures. And maybe because they had the Republican joke earlier, this is a Democrat joke, because we see Al playing Igor named Al Gore.
But they didn't make an internet
They
joke.
didn't make an internet joke. They didn't make a climate change joke.
I don't think he hadn't claimed that yet, because we didn't know what the internet was. I was on the internet. That's fine. But, you know, most people weren't in 97, I imagine. But Mark might have been. He might have been on the dark Mark web.
But like, so they see this footage. He gives them the potion. He gets to hang out with Heidi in her little dress, pouring him root beer
in her Heidi hole.
And we see them like banging on the door, trying to get in, and they're like, "Oh, okay." And then does he make a comment about having to kill them or something in this point, like to get rid of them?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So then now Jill is concerned that he wants to kill them in real life. So she saw this movie and she did what every overreactive Republican politician does and says that video games are too violent or movies are too violent. And so we have to stop them.
Yeah. What's amazing about this is like, okay, like the last scene post credits makes the whole episode kind of non-canon.
Yeah.
Which a lot of these, I believe, are like they're supposed to not be real.
Yeah.
But everything else makes it seem like it actually is until that point. But like the whole idea that she jumps immediately to, oh my God, Mark, my child, actually wants to murder, is not only is capable of murdering us, I think he is going to murder us.
Yeah, he actively wants to do this.
He has put together his great set, and and then the problem isn't my ability to connect to my son.
Yeah.
But it's in fact that he's wearing so much black that he is now capable of murder.
Yeah.
Of parent side.
And he wants to film it.
And he wants to film it, and he wants to, like, him and his friend are going to do it he's going to kill his father in front of me. Whose father, during this entire time is incredibly supportive.
Yeah, he's like, that's the thing, is that like Tim is basically telling her, you are over exaggerating. This is a movie. It's fun. It's going to be a blast to film this. And
I can't wait to film more. He's doing a great job. Everything he's doing is cool. I love doing this.
Yes, it's like he's so on board. And then it's her it's her like complaining and fretting so much that eventually gets him to start worrying about it as well, to the point where they go to film a big scene where he's going to chop their heads off, and he puts him on this chopping block, and he has a real machete that he's using for the shot so that they can get the light glinting off the blade and make it look realistic. And Tim starts to get a little freaked out, and then Jill is very worried, and then he raises the machete up and he starts to bring it down, and they scream and stop the filming.
And here's how the rest of they have them come inside to have a heart to heart about their concerns. And there is a reality of, hey, we know what this movie is actually about. It appears that you feel like we don't give you as much love and attention as we do our two more popular sons. Which, but if you watch this episode, is right. They don't.
Yeah, well, we can't help that you're a loser.
We can't help that you don't like the things we do. Like, he literally says, like, Tim literally says at one point that basically nothing Mark is interested in is productive. Which is amazing.
Yes, he does. But then he also he follows that up by saying he did lots of productive things when he was a kid, which is basically reading hot rod magazines.
Well, it comes back to that once again, that for a generation of parents, and most parents are like this still to this day, but it was very hard from the boomers to my generation and your generation of everything that if you don't have the same childhood and interests that I had, you are in fact having an incorrect childhood.
Yes, exactly.
Like the things you do are wastes of time.
Yeah.
And then every kid who fucking learned how to use a computer is now helping them fucking fix their computer as they're afraid that they're talking to somebody who says they're quote unquote Norton and that their bank information is on aka the dark web, thanks to Dark Mark, and that they better give them all their login information to help them get them off the dark web.
Yeah.
My mom went through that. But the episode should end with like, hey, we feel like you are concerned that we don't have the same bond with you, the same connection with you because you're different than your brothers, and him going, yeah, that's actually true because that's what's actually happening. And then Jill goes, also, I think you want to murder us. And then him looking them right in the eye and going, what the fuck, Mom? Doon, 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 boom, 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 boom. And that's the episode. Because if I guess just imagine like if I had like a time with my child where like her taste changed, which they do, but generally she's very similar to me, but some, going through an age time where she's going to find herself and learn new things she's interested in.
Yeah.
And she like, it's also like, it's something that I don't connect with. And, we have less of a bond because of that, which could happen. Right. But then like to jump to like, hey, I'm not interested in you as a person as much as I am other people. Also, I now think that you're capable of murdering
well, it's
Jody and I. And like her reaction should be, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's weird because
what are you talking about?
It's weird because it does have this very sort of binary of it. I mean, I think I already kind of mentioned this, but it's like this very binary of you either are like this or you're like this. And if you're this other way, you're different. And there's no way that I can ever relate to you as a person.
Like, you have different interests that I don't understand. That's great. Can we just have fucking dinner? Like, especially like, there really is an idea, especially at that time, of like, if my kid isn't interested in the right things between ages 15 and 19, then they're going to be failures the rest of their life from 19 through 90.
Yeah.
Like they will never figure out how to become an adult because to become an adult, you have to go through the specific childhood and teenage years that was frozen in time through 19 1942 through 1969.
Yeah.
Nice. Like just like this whole thing of like, what, you don't like XXXX? Well, what you're learning and what you're interested in won't help you for the future. Why not? Because when you're older, you have to read newspapers, drink coffee, and like sports, and hate your wife and hate your husband.
What I also liked was that, like, you know, they bring up his black clothes and all this stuff, and he
once again wearing a nicely pressed button-up dress shirt. He has the main goth thing he has is his nails are painted black.
Yeah, but like they bring that stuff up and they're like, oh, it's just so different, and he's like, well, maybe that's just because I'm different, you know, I'm not like them, and that's whatever, and all of that's fine, and they finally are like, okay, cool. Well, they don't really come to grips with it, and he doesn't really interrogate them further on. You thought I wanted to murder you, but like then they're like. Then he says something about them liking Ronnie or, you know, his friend or whatever. And they're like, that'll probably take a lot longer for us to get comfortable with that. And it's like, Jesus Christ, can you stop shitting on my friend every time he comes over? Because it's really annoying.
I like this one sentence about Mark the Tool Boy Taylor from the Wikipedia. Well, Mark never truly bonded with Randy. In the final season, Mark and Brad were very close, as a result of the dynamic of their relationship changing when Randy left for Costa Rica. Wait, what?
So the only thing that it took to get Mark out of his goth phase was his middle brother leaving. Yeah,
apparently his gothic appearance was gone by the end of the series.
Yeah, it was. He was basically a normal kid again. I don't know what happened to that's a good thing to look up. What happened to Ronnie? Like, what did he just go away? Did he move away and he was like, well, I'm not goth anymore?
Which is fine. Kids change.
Yeah. But it's very funny that they're just like, yeah, all right, well, now he's not goth anymore.
And he's not friends with Ronnie anymore.
Yeah. Like, why did they? Yeah, that's so funny. I didn't think about that because I do remember that he stopped being goth at some point in time, but it's very funny that they just kind of let that go.
Just like they had an idea for it and they went through everything they wanted from it. I'm guessing one of the writers had a goth kid or Tim saw something in a newspaper.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just that era of like maybe there was more visibility. There was more goth visibility happening on in that time. And they wanted to address it in some way.
I like that under family, fashion sense, and career for characters, in this character section of Home Improvement Wikipedia, Al Borland is slightly overweight and is almost always seen wearing flannel, which Tim cracks jokes about consistently.
Yeah.
He did say he has a lot of gravity in this episode. Richard Carter isn't that large.
No.
He's not Coke thin.
Well, neither is Tim.
Neither is Tim. Whatever. Like, that is such a... somebody had to have fat jokes on every fucking one of these shows.
Yeah, it's... Yeah, I can't find... Where is this kid? Where's this Ronnie kid? I need to know what happened to him. I need to know why he left. Did he get killed?
He's not even on the wiki. Is he even on the wiki?
He's got to be somewhere. Oh, there we go. He's at the very bottom of the recurring characters.
Oh, there he is. I was looking for with an IE for some reason.
No, he's his goth friend in season 7, so I guess he's only in season 7.
Bizarre.
Yeah, interesting. I guess he left at the end of the season or something.
That's when season 8, Mark's like, hey, I'm a new guy now. I like something else now, and I no longer am friends with that guy.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Alma, look at the character above him.
Alma Borland. Oh boy. Wow.
Al's unseen, overbearing, obese mother is the butt of many of Tim's jokes. Dies of a sudden heart attack.
I think that she was just a voice. Like, honestly, I think that there was a voice and maybe like shadows or something that you saw of her.
There was one thing the audience laughed at that it felt like the show wasn't expecting a laugh at that moment, when they were watching the Mark video,
Uh-huh.
and like they had to like wait, and then Tim made a ice breaking joke to like if it felt like it was supposed to be quiet, like wow, this is what his video is about, but the live studio audience found it funny.
Yeah, it's. I mean, that's the.
They could have edited it out, but like, it just seemed odd.
That's the episode. This great episode of Home Improvement.
It ends with the parents' heads in baskets.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that little cold ending. It's like a cold open, but for the end, where they agree to be in the movie. We see their head in this basket that we saw earlier when Randy and Brad were in there. It was like a little platform where they were sitting underneath a table and they had their heads in a basket. Looked great effect. I don't know how Mark and Ronnie put that together, but really good job. Maybe Al helped them.
Nice of Tim to let him dig that deep a hole, because one brother is very tall.
But what we see Tim and Jill's head in a basket, and then they say, "Oh, great! It looks great shot," and then they pick up the basket and walk away while their heads are floating in it. So clearly, they did cut their heads off, and they're dead now. And this was the last episode of the series. There was one more episode, and it was where Mark went to jail. But yeah, so that's the episode, and we get some fun little bloopers at the end that are not really that good.
They can't say their lines. It's very funny.
The height of comedy. But I needed there to be. I wish that the bloopers were like actually planned, so that it was just the set falling apart. like Tim had some hand in constructing the set on the show as well, and it kept falling apart.
I wish, considering it's a Halloween episode, like the bloopers were someone dying on set.
Yeah. Yeah, someone getting impaled by a swinging light rig or something.
Yeah, it would have been fucking hilarious.
But yeah, that's the episode. Not really as good as I remembered it.
I think they made to let Tim be the cool dad.
Yeah.
They very much made Jill be unlikable in this episode.
Yeah, for sure.
Very unlikable. Because I assume, like, watching this, how much do you think they're writing it to appeal to the parents watching this rather than the kids watching this?
It's definitely it's a family show, but it's definitely there for the parents.
Because I don't feel like this was written for you to project upon Mark.
No, I don't think so.
Mark.
I think it's for the parents to watch this with their family, with their kids, and go, "I'm glad you're not like that kid."
He wears pressed shirts.
I'm glad that you don't dress in all black. Or to turn to their kid and go, "You would never do anything like that, would you?"
And they do over, and their kids wearing business casual, and they're fucking losing their mind. He was wearing a black polo. What the fuck?
But we have to, before we wrap it up here, put it on our scale of spookiness, as we're doing with all of our Halloween themed episodes. So, Skinner, where would you put this episode of Home Improvement on our scale of spookiness from 1 to 10?
3, but mostly based on how close the two brothers would have had to stand together in that hole for that one scene where their heads were in the basket. Like they literally would have had their arms wrapped around each other.
Yeah, I guess I think a 3 is fair. It's not that spooky. There's not as much. I think there's another Home Improvement Halloween episode that's probably slightly better than this one, where they're trying to prank each other, and that one they get a little scarier in that one because they think that there's like been a murder in their basement. And that one I think is a little scarier, but yeah, I'm glad we had the nice little connection with the back-to-back goth kids.
Who knows? There might be more goth kids to come.
Ooh, I hope so. We'll see. But
be a complete coincidence. We have nothing planned.
But until next time, when we're back with another spooky episode of a spooky TV show, I've been Josh.
I've been Skinner.
And we want you to...
Oh, God.
You've been listening to Center of Weirdness. If you like this show, rate and review us wherever you find it, but especially on Apple Podcasts. You can listen to every episode at centerofweird.com, where you can also find all of the old Predictocast episodes. And if you want to get in touch with us to tell us about a show we should cover, hit us up on Twitter at WeirdCenter. As always, thanks for listening.
More power to climax.
All right, I gotta go. I'm gonna go watch Whole Improvement.
I still think Bone Improvement was better. You should have stopped right there.
All right.